Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing good today. I hope everybody had a good Christmas and a good start to the new year. And I apologize if I sound like shit and out of breath or whatever, but I've been, look at all the mushrooms. I've been terribly, terribly sick. Pretty much since just after New Year's, for like the last week. And I'm still sick now, so. But I got enough gas in the tank to get out for a hike. I just don't know how far I'm gonna go. I've already gone quite a ways today. And I am back in a very familiar area. I think you guys will recognize this spot. Just right here, up the hill here a little bit further, is where a while ago I was doing a video and I caught movement and I put the camera on something and then it didn't move, and anyways I did the video, and then just as I put all my camera gear away, it moved again and was gone. And then I hiked back in here about a week later. And remember I said, oh yeah, the logging company must have come in and removed that stump. Remember the stump? There's pictures of it and whatnot. So that's where I'm at today. Doing a hike up here again. It's a steep country. It's steep country, and I love this spot, though I just don't know how far in here I'm going to get today. But yeah, this is where the stump got taken away, remember? Yeah, you remember. I appreciate all the emails and comments and whatnot from people. I mentioned in one of my last videos that I was going through a little bit of shit personally in the last little while, and was kind of bothered by things, and things are working themselves out. For me, life's getting back on track, and oh Jesus, ooh, almost fell. Hang on. Anyhow, yeah, life's getting back on track for me slowly. Bit of a shake-up in life, but thanks to my beautiful wife, my lovely wife, and my family, my kids and their partners, because they really helped me out. So I probably look like shit, don't I? I feel like shit still. I'm gonna try heading up the hill here even more if I can. This is a steep climb, but let's see if I can make it. I took off there after Christmas for a few days. I took off and just went into the woods, into the mountains. And I actually decided to not take my camera. I did that on purpose. I was going to take you guys along, but I just needed to go and clear my head and just really like disconnect and reset. Probably the best way to put it. I had to go out and reset myself. And I thought that might be a little hard to do if I was filming and whatnot. Talked to myself a lot while I was out there. Boy, if there was any Bigfoot around me those days, they probably thought I was nuts the way I was talking to myself and whatnot. But so anyways, sorry guys, no footage, no video from that trip. Sometimes we all have to just do things for us, what's right for us, and that's what was right for me at the time. So, but I'll bringing you along today. That almost looks like an elk rub up there. I wonder if that is. I wonder if you guys see what I'm looking at. There's a tree right there that's got the bark ripped off of it. Let's check it out. I'm just out for a hike. I'm not hunting. I'm not gathering. I'm simply out for a hike. Yeah, you see that tree there? That one right there. I'd say that is definitely an elk rub. There's a few in here. All right, I think it's time for a little rest, and I have got to get a couple of these emails read out. It's wild. I want to tell you guys a quick little story while I'm finding a place to sit down here, but quite a few years ago, I was moose hunting. And I was with my good buddy. Him and I hunt together all the time. We've been going together for, 20 years. And anyways, we're way up in northern British Columbia. And we're walking along just out in the bush, in the forest. And we heard talking. Like literally talking, but it wasn't like human. You couldn't understand it. It was like a different language, but it just sounded exactly like somebody talking. And there was 2 or 3 of them, and of course I'm like, oh yeah. Right on. We got 2 or 3 Bigfoot that we're walking in on. This is not good. And it got louder and louder, and then all of a sudden we're walking along, and then boom, there's like 5 moose. And holy shit, look at that tree. That's a cedar, that's a red cedar, and something has ripped the shit out of it. Look at that. I'm sorry, guys. Anyways, I'm going to tell my story here. So we heard what we thought was talking and it sounded, but we couldn't understand it. And I'm thinking it's a bloody couple of Bigfoot. And anyways, we go a little bit further, and out come these like 5 or 6 moose. And it was the cow moose calling. And I'm here to tell you, they sounded just like people. It was insane. They sounded like people talking in a foreign tongue. But it was, we saw them, it was the moose. But it just goes to show you, you hear sounds. I've hunted moose my whole life. That's the first time I'd ever heard anything like that. It was absolutely mind-blowing. I don't like this tree at all. Something's ripped, like torn into that. Scraped up and down it. Probably a bear, eh? But we're not sitting there. I can tell you that much right now. I can tell you that much for free. We're not sitting there and reading an email. We're going to sit just right over here and read an email. Yeah, that was quite the encounter. I've had some pretty crazy things happen to me in all my years in the bush. You know, hiking and hunting and fishing and just roaming around, and had some pretty wild things happen. It's kind of cool. I'll share some more with you guys. I had one other time. I'll just do one more quick one while I'm looking for a spot to sit. Another time up in northern BC. I think I told you guys about that book, Descent into Madness, Michael Orris. And I hunt part of the area where he roamed. I'm in that area. And he used to carve his name, or not his name, his symbol. He had a symbol, and his nickname was Chesley Free Mike. And he used to carve this symbol and Chesley Free Mike into trees and stuff. And anyways, I knew I'd read the book already. I knew he was dead, but I was hunting, and it was evening. And I wasn't that far from my camp, and I saw a man, and I swear to God, to this day, this was a long time ago, but I saw this man in a blue, a robin's egg blue jacket, walking super fast through the forest, and I called out to him because I didn't want to startle the guy. So I called out to him, and the guy never missed a beat, just kept on going. I don't know if he was a trapper or what the hell he was, but I hollered out to him, and he just kept trucking. He was a weird looking dude, man. He was what I would consider bushed, but in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of kilometers from the nearest you know, any kind of settlement or homes or anything, like hundreds and hundreds of kilometers away. So that was pretty wild too. Okay, let's find a place to sit down here. Enough bullshitting about hunting stories. Hang on, let's find a spot. Man, it's rough. It's rough trying to hike when you feel like shit. I know it's a cold or whatever that I've got, but it's friggin' kicking my ass. Anyways, I'm not gonna. I've already spent a lot of time here yakking away to you guys, but so I'm not going to spend any more telling you my stories, my hunting stories. I've got lots, man. I've got lots. I've seen some crazy shit over the years out in the woods. I hear a crow. Going crazy. But anyways, I'll share more another time. I want to get onto these emails because I want to get these people heard. Let's open up the old email box. And I'm going to go to our unread. Our unread. I don't even know what the last email was that I read. I honestly can't remember. The last week or so, week and a half, has been a bit of a blur to me, so bear with me. Yeah, I'm on high alert. Quiet. All right, here we go. I'm gonna do two. I'm doing 2 emails today, you guys. So I hope you're up for it. Could be a long video. Here we go. Hey Darren, I hope you're having a great summer and getting lots of fishing in. My name's Reg Murphy, and I live in northern British Columbia, just northwest of Prince George. I'm an off-highway logging truck driver, and I've spent almost 40 years living in camp and driving off-highway trucks throughout the province. I've always been fascinated with Bigfoot and hearing the stories people tell, as well as some of the video I've seen and consider totally legitimate. Like many other people my age, I was first introduced to Bigfoot with the Patterson-Gimlin film from, I believe, the late 60s. And for me, that was all I needed to know these people exist. I hear you there. I've spent most of my life in the most remote, isolated regions of British Columbia, where trucks and equipment are barged in to build roads and access timber in places that man has never stepped foot in. When I first got into logging, I was part of the road building crew, so we were the first people to ever see these forests in many of the places. After a few years of building road, I decided to go in truck and haul logs, and I've been there ever since. I know that you spend a lot of time in very remote areas of BC, so you know what it's like in these camp locations. I do. I actually worked in camp many moons ago. The crews are flown into camp and work for some 14 days or more. Float plane or barge are the only ways to access these areas. I want to try and explain to people just how remote and vast parts of British Columbia and also parts of North America really are. There's still huge forests here that no man has ever walked through. When I'm working, I'm driving these logging roads for 10-12 hours a day, and I've seen all sorts of different wildlife. And I had always thought to myself, why have I never seen a Bigfoot or any sign of them? I actually did question their existence, even though I was a firm believer. It was 2016 that I finally got the evidence that settled my mind and know for a fact that Bigfoot is real. It was early summer and we were on our second rotation at camp, and I was heading to the log dump with a load from a landing that we had timber cold decked at. I was about halfway from the landing to the water on a hill that's about 14% grade, and I was crawling down the hill to avoid being on the brakes. As I rounded the corner of a switchback, right in the middle of the road, maybe 60 feet in front of me, was this massive being. Your typical description of a Bigfoot. This thing was probably all of 9 feet tall and extremely thick in the legs, waist, and chest. He was a dark brown color with gray on his shoulders and head. I could clearly see that he was a male, and he was massive. When I first saw him, he was facing me. I'm assuming he was walking up the road until I rounded the corner, and then he stopped and immediately turned to my left and headed for the timber. I noticed that this thing had a real bad limp. There was something wrong with his right leg. I have to admit, I only saw him for maybe 10 seconds, and he was in the timber and gone. I wasn't able to stop with a full load on, so I just carried on to the dump and finished my day. At the end of the shift, I jumped in one of the crummies and drove up to where I had seen this guy. When I walked to the edge of the road where he went over the bank and into the timber, I saw a few of his tracks, and a couple of the prints were very clear in the gravel. I noticed that his right foot was turned a quarter of the way out, and only 2 or 3 of his toes were visible in the print. I stood there for a bit and listened and watched the timber, but never saw him again. I worked that camp until the snow came, and then back the following spring for another full year, and never saw anything again. It wasn't some crazy experience that I had, but it was all I needed to rest my mind about whether or not Bigfoot exists. I've listened to all the stories you've read from people, and I just can't imagine what some of these people went through. I was scared shitless inside the cab of a massive loaded logging truck that could run over and kill almost anything, and I only saw this guy for maybe 10 seconds or so. I can't imagine being in the forest, armed or not, and running into one of these people. Just the thought of it scares the shit out of me. I just wanted to share my brief encounter with you and all the people who watch you. Believe me when I say, they are real. Keep up the great videos, and always watch your ass out there. Later, Reg Murphy. Reg Murphy. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Mark that as read. And Reg, I see your phone number there, so I'll put you on my list of people to call. I'd like to chat with you guys. If you guys take the time to send me in an email, I'm going to take the time to read it. Number one, I will respond to you in an email, and if you've left your number, I'll give you a call. Hopefully we can have a chat. Pretty wild. I actually had a lot of my family were loggers, and my grandfather was a faller, and my uncle was he owned a bunch of logging trucks, was a logging truck driver himself, and I still have family that build logging road, and I'm going to reach out to my uncle actually after hearing excuse me. I'm going to reach out to my uncle after hearing Reg's encounter. I bet you there's so many loggers out there that have had something happen. You know, that there's been something. I've read a few emails from loggers in the past, but there's got to be so many more. But I'm going to reach out to my uncle because he's in his probably mid-70s now, and I don't know how much longer he's going to be with us because he's not doing so well health-wise. But he still works building logging road out in the bush, remote. So I'm going to reach out to him. I just heard something. Come on, mind. Don't play tricks on me. Just heard a bang. Anyways, thanks, Reg. Appreciate it, man. We've heard all sorts of different encounters, right? Like from noises to tracks to actual sightings and whatnot. So That's pretty wild. Okay, on to the next. So there's, there you go. Obviously, Reg emailed me that in the summertime. It's January. I'm sorry I'm so far behind on these, but I don't have a ton of extra time right now. Here's the next one after Reg. Darren, I've been trying to put my experiences in an email for you, but every time I start, I just can't finish. It's taken me well over a month to finally put into words what I've been experiencing for more than 20 years. We have both had some very traumatic experiences with the forest people. And for me, it started about 25 years ago around my home. My husband and I live off-grid and have done so since we met 35 years ago. I'm 62 now, and my run-ins with these people still happen from time to time. When Gordon and I first moved to our homestead, everything was fine. And then these people started harassing us, and more so me, whenever Gord was away. Excuse me. The first time we ever encountered them was right on our property that borders a large national forest. There were 3 of them together, and they got in between me and the house one evening as I was getting home from a walk. We live on 60 acres, and our nearest neighbor is 15 to 20 minutes down the road. Our place is at the end of the road. I was out picking mushrooms for the afternoon and started heading home as it was getting dark. I could see the lights from the house through the forest. When out of nowhere, I saw a flash of black moving through the trees. I stopped and looked to where I saw the movement, and all of a sudden, I saw 2 things run from tree to tree. They were probably 150 feet in front of me. I stopped walking and said, "Hey, who's there?" All of a sudden, I got a response of some kind, but I didn't understand what it was saying. Now, I knew when I called out to them that these were not people, and I honestly don't know why I called out to them. It was most likely out of fear. When the one creature called back to me, it was speaking. It wasn't a grunt or a growl or just a noise. It was actually speaking to me, or to the other creatures that were near it. I'm not sure. I started talking back, and this thing saying, I started talking back at this thing, saying, "I'm just out for a walk. I'm getting some mushrooms. I'm going back to my house. Please leave me alone." I don't know what prompted me to say that, but that's what I said. The response I got was from all 3 of these things. It was as if they were talking amongst themselves, and then the first one that first responded to me again, and I think directly to me. I only say that because when the 3 of them were chattering, it was much quieter. And then there was a pause, and the one to my left sounded as if it was directing its speech to me again. When I first caught a glimpse of these beings, I was very scared because I wasn't sure what exactly I had seen. I still wasn't positive what I was dealing with until the one to my left peeked out from behind a large fir tree. Its head was maybe 9 or 10 feet off the ground, and I could clearly see its face. Its eyes were very dark, and I couldn't actually see the eyeball, but I could see it blinking. Its eyes had a Its eyes were very dark, and I couldn't actually see the eyeballs, but I could see it blinking its eyes. It had a large, flat nose, and its face was completely covered in blackish gray hair. I did get very scared again, and was crying. But I wasn't able to move or turn to walk the other way. I just stood there and stared at this massive face. This thing made another noise that sounded exactly like, in quotation, "Don't go." And it said it 3 times in a row. Don't go, don't go, don't go. I replied, "Please don't hurt me. I just want to go home." It made the sounds again, and it sounds exactly the same. It sounded like someone who doesn't really speak English trying to speak English. This thing kept itself exposed the entire time, just staring at me. And I must say that I started to feel okay, and I even stopped crying, but I still wasn't able to move. And these Sasquatch were directly in the path I had to go. As I was staring at the one, out of nowhere, a large rock about the size of a basketball landed just a few feet to my right and scared the absolute hell out of me. I screamed, dropped my bucket of mushrooms, and tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move. My mind was saying run, but I couldn't move my feet. I was terrified now. Immediately after the rock landed, the being that I was staring at came out completely from behind the tree and was moving to the right where the other chattering came from. All of a sudden, another large rock landed just a few feet to my right. I screamed again, and the being that I was watching screamed and ran to the right towards a small group of trees. Just as this thing got to the group of trees, 2 more beings came running out, going to my right. These 2 Sasquatch were not quite as large as the other one, and he was screaming something at them as they ran. I then watched this thing pick up a boulder larger than the ones that were thrown at me and throw it in the direction of the other 2 that were now walking away looking at him. As this rock hit their feet, they made a crazy noise and took off and were gone out of sight. I was literally shaking and crying again the entire time, but I was still frozen in my tracks. I was still watching the one creature as he now stood in the middle of the group of trees watching me. I swear on my soul, I heard this thing say what sounded to me like, in quotation, "Now go." And it said it twice, "Now go." I was now able to move, and I slowly walked in the direction of the house, keeping my eye on him until I was out of sight, at which point I started to run. I ran all the way back to the house, and as I ran past the barn, I saw Gord in there. So I ran to him and was crying. Gord grabbed me and asked if I was all right. I was babbling, making no sense, but I said I'm okay. Gord took me in the house and sat me down and talked to me until I calmed down enough to tell him what had happened. I explained everything to Gord, and he never once doubted me, but I could tell he was skeptical about what I'd said. I never slept all night and spent most of the night on the couch staring at the fire. The next morning, Gord said he was going back to where I was and take a look around. I wanted no part of it. I wanted to stay in the house. Gord opened the front door and said, "What the hell?" I walked slowly towards him, and he turned around with my large bucket full of mushrooms. He said, "How the hell did that get there?" I said, I bet you he brought it. Gord closed the door and said, this is not a good situation to have if these things are coming to our house. A little later on, Gord went to the barn, and just after he left the house, he came back in and said, Cathy, you need to come and see this. I slowly walked out to the driveway, and Gord pointed to the ground. And there were several huge human footprints in the dirt on the edge of the driveway. They were massive. Gord later measured them at 19 inches long. And the stride between footprints was over 8.5 feet from step to step. There were some tracks coming from the forest to the house, and other tracks going away from the house back to the forest. I was absolutely terrified now that this thing had come right to our front door in the middle of the night while I was sitting by the fire. We have 24 chickens and 4 goats, all at the barn, but they were all fine. This thing came directly to the back door and then straight back to the forest. This was the first of many, many interactions with these people, Darren. This has continued for almost 25 years now. There are times when nothing happens for months and months. Then out of the blue, we see one, or we have some kind of interaction. We have had a lot of gifting take place as I started leaving little things at the edge of the forest. And a few days later, they were gone, and something would be in its place. Sometimes it would be a feather, a beautiful rock, or a handful of mushrooms or berries. I have documented many of our interactions over the past 20 years in a little diary that I started, and kept a bit of that what's taken place. I was absolutely terrified of these beings at first, and understandably so. But after the bucket of mushrooms were returned to my doorstep, I felt I had no fear. I do get butterflies in my stomach sometimes when I'm near them, but it's not really fear, it's a nervous feeling, and it usually goes away. I've got so much I can share with you if you're interested. Gordon and I never really talk to anyone about what's going on, because most people can't accept the fact that these people are in our woods, and we don't want people tramping all through our forests looking for them. I do have some pictures that I can send you as well if you'd like. Let me know. I don't have any pictures of them themselves, but I do have things that they've left us and some footprints. Thank you for taking your very valuable time to share people's emails and make others aware of the Sasquatch people. We all need to accept their existence and learn to respect their lives and let them be. I know that they will interact with people they choose to at a time they choose. I know that they've chosen to interact with you in the past, and they continue to because you respect them and their way of life. You don't share where you've seen them or had encounters with them, and that's very important. God bless you for all you do, Darren. You're a good soul, and I can see that clearly. Talk soon, Cathy Germain. Well, as I always say, holy shit, Cathy Germain. Holy. That's wild. That is wild. So you had things thrown at you. It sounded like there was 3 of them, I'm guessing, from the email. You had things thrown at you, and then you have one communicating somehow, trying to communicate with you. And then get the whole gifting thing, which I've heard of as well. And you know what? You guys saw that video that I sent where I got back to my pack after going down to the lake, and there was a friggin' feather stuffed into the stump right at my pack. Like stuck in the stump, not laying there on the ground. I don't know 100% what did that, but you know, your bucket was on the doorstep the next day. It's wild. You know, I honestly don't know what to make of all these pieces of the puzzle. It's just, you know, things come in and it's just, again, I try to put myself there and I'm going, I really do stand behind what I say. Excuse me. I still really stand behind what I say, that I think these beings are somewhat similar to humans. There's good humans, there's great humans, and there's frickin' douchebag, horrible humans. And I think these beings are the same. There's good and there's bad. Wow. I don't think you said where you are, Cathy. That's fine. You don't need to say where you are. I totally respect that. I'm going to reach out to you as well. I'd love to hear more. And if you've got more to share with us, of course we want to hear it 100%. You know what? It's all about getting the knowledge out there. That's all this is about. That's all this is about, is sharing the knowledge. And so if you've got more to share, please share it. Okay, I'm cooling down, so I'm going to start moving here again. Got an email to send in, guys. Send it in. You know, there's lots of avenues to get your emails read. If you want it read here, if you want to share it with me, to share with all of us here at Outlaw Country, email it to me, outlawcountry1896@gmail.com, and I will get to it. I'm obviously way behind. I think we're 60 emails away, sitting in the inbox. So I got 60 emails to read still, or something like that. And but I will get them. So you got something you want to share with us, share it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like Reg's email, just a brief sighting. If whatever it is, you want to share it, I'm all ears. All right. And I'm gonna rock and roll. It's just so quiet here. Crazy. Okay, Reg, appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And Catherine, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna rock and roll. Hope you all have a good day. Be safe. And thanks again for all your support at Outlaw Country. Yeah, I really appreciate it. And remember, be a good person. Don't be a douchebag, man. Just be a good person. It's easy, right? Okay, let's go. Time to go. The cedar down in here. The other spot was mostly fir. I just wanted to take a minute again and thank you guys. Thank everyone for their support with Outlaw Country. And you know, I honestly think we've built a hell of a good community here. You know, good people, and they're wishing well for other people. And you know, I hear people making comments, or I see people making comments saying, you know, my thoughts are with you, and you're in my prayers, like two other people that might be suffering from something or whatever. And that's freaking awesome. This world needs more of that. This world needs more of that.